So my name's Cody Woods. My website's codyjwoods.com. I produce live events because I'm a stand-up comedian. I do online content. I've been on TV a few times.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, I'm excited whenever I get to talk to a comedian. And no, folks, there's not going to be this, rapid fire. And when the chicken crossed the road, we ain't going to do any of that, or when I got off the toilet, we don't have to do any of that. Just a conversation to show you the life of a stand-up comedian. He's not new to the game at all. He's seasoned, and we're going to have a real dialogue with Cody Woods. You are a funny guy, and you don't have to be funny at all on this podcast. So feel free. This is a safe space. This isn't, the sway of comedy. Well, tell us a joke, another one. So welcome to the show, my bro. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's 9 a.m. here on the West Coast, so I'm glad there's no pressure to be funny. My brain doesn't turn on until about 3 p.m., so...
Hey, don't let it turn on until that invoice is paid or, that payment is paid, because I think people think comedians are like funny all the time. And half the time, a lot of them are depressed. But give us the game on how you got into this. Why did you get into comedy, and just, how you started?
I started when I was a kid. I wanted to do it since I was a kid, but I was an older kid when I started. I started when I was either 16 or 17. It's getting a little blurry these days because I'm 34 now. But I wanted to do it since I was like 3, maybe 5 years old. Eddie Murphy's stand-up. I thought it was impossible for one person to just be funny for a group of people. It just doesn't seem possible. And the way Eddie Murphy did it, I was like, man, I want to be that guy so bad. And that thirst has never really stopped. It's evolved, but it's always kind of been in me. That thirst to be in control and laugh, making everybody laugh. It's pretty great. That control is amazing. Once you're able to actually use it. It takes forever to get good though. It takes forever.
For forever. How long does it take to, when you talk about control, the way you take out hecklers, you're so calm and just, you're in your zone almost. It's like you need to be at I don't know if you remember Uptown Comedy Club or it's like, I got you. Please come to the show trying to be part of the show. I'll make you famous.
Yeah, you have to have that or at least for me, you got to have that mentality of I really wish you would, because and that's really life. The people that are just, they have that mentality of I really wish you would, they have an edge. Even though if they don't start it, they were wanting it to start, like they have a mental edge on you. And honestly, I learned that being the only white kid in my schools. I learned a different mentality when it came to confrontation, because most of the schools I went to, I was the only white kid. Everybody else was mostly black, right? And there's the first time I ever heard, I really wish you would. I heard that from everybody. I was like, why would you wish that? That seems very inconvenient. But and then I learned that mentality of like, if you wish for the problem, you'll be able to deal with it when it arrives. And that I've put that into my stand-up. So like when there was audience members that were unruly, I'm waiting for it, and that's also where I started too, because I kind of started in that circuit. I was opening for like Bruce and all these like Def Comedy Jam legends and stuff, and they would test me. So I waited for the test. I wanted the test. So then eventually I got really good at just sort of being on top of them when they started. But that took about, I say about 10 years, 10 years for my brain to really start working up there. Like as if me and you were talking now, that level of comfort and thinking quick came about 10 years of being on stage. Because everybody thinks fast. That's one thing. Everybody thinks that comedians think really fast, but no, everyone thinks fast. It's just, if you're comfortable, you'll think as fast as, Tom Brady thinks fast, but so do I. But if I was as comfortable as Tom Brady, I'd be able to think and read the way he did, but I wouldn't be comfortable in that situation. My brain would freeze up. So that's really what all it is. It's just comfort, but everybody's mind is quick, you know? So
Got you. So your brain would freeze if you had like a 300-pounder coming at you in the
yeah.
pocket, and where Tom is like, yeah, this is it, and I'm gonna take the hit. I got you. I got you.
Yep.
Tell the people where, you talk about being a minority in the school. Where did you grow up? And just, how did you find that comedy helped, with those relationships growing up? Because so many kids now are on like medication, are, not able to function because they're being bullied, where bullying used to be, I mean, it just was part of the thing. You either learn how to be funny or fight, or you became the bully. So give us the game.
Yeah, that was, I don't really want to advocate bullying because I could see how some people might not have an outlet to turn it into a positive. I had an outlet because I knew that it would make me funnier. I knew I'd have to get quick and be the guy that could roast someone if they were bullying me. And then it just sort of, it gave me a thicker skin and a quicker wit. And, I thank God I grew up the way I did. Because I'll be honest, I'm around other white people that didn't grow up the way I did, and they're very soft. And I have a hard time relating to them because they didn't go through that. And I don't want to advocate bullying because I remember it being traumatic. I had to really remember, I was like, man, should kids get bullied? Because like it did this for me, it did all these positives. But I had to really think of what my mind was back then. It was pretty bad. And that was without social media. If I had to go through that and then with social media, I don't know if I would have made it out because that shit is rough. But and that's me changing my opinion because there for years I was just like, man, these kids, these pussies, but they weren't going, they weren't going through like newspapers talking about your business. You know what I mean? That's all this social media is. It's newspapers on your life. Um, they're that's a little different, because I
What
only had to
city?
worry.
What state?
This is Wichita, Kansas. Yeah. People think that it's all Toto and all that. No, it ain't. It's basically, I don't know if like Toledo, Ohio, and Detroit.
Yeah.
It's the best description because we got like Kansas City up there, right? Kansas City shits down into Wichita the way Detroit shits down into. So
I know
for,
Wichita. I know
yeah,
Wichita. I went to school first in Ottawa, and so I was down the street from Lawrence. And yeah, I know Wichita because, well, I'll tell you how I know Wichita, Manhattan. That'll be off air conversation.
yeah,
But being in that realm, I think people think like you're saying, that's called the heartland of America, and everything is just so perfect. But there's some real poverty
yeah,
still to this day out there that never gets a highlight. Like if you or anybody tries to come out with a rap song and talk about how hard Wichita, people are like, Wichita, stop
right.
it. Stop it. Where I'm from, Oakland, and Oakland looks like, Beverly Hills. It's so gentrified and everything for many parts, I should say.
Yeah, right. And I grew up in the Bay Area after the Wichita, so I know Oakland really well. That was the comedy scene I came up in, was Oakland. So
Okay.
yeah,
So
so it's
I saw
yeah,
you did something with you've opened for like Paul Mooney, which
yeah.
that's like, I mean, that's a legend right there. One of my faves. Now, from Wichita to Oakland, can you tell people, and even tell, white people who haven't experienced what you've experienced, like what is the difference and what you learned? Because they're like, wait, what's the key to dealing with them? I don't want to be called a Karen anymore. I don't want to be
Oh.
called a Kevin. Like, what
Kevin.
did you what did you go through and see to say I'm good? I got a little Teflon on me. I'm a Teflon Don.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be honest, just before I get into that, I knew Karen was going to be the female word for, this is like 3 years ago. I'm like, man, whoever's named Karen, you're, I don't know if I can cuss on here, but you're
Yeah,
F,
you say
right?
what you want.
But I was like, they're going to have a male one soon. And I bet you it's going to be Cody. Am I about to be And then they went with Kevin. I was like, oh, thank God. Because, man, it could have easily been Cody.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
For real.
but, yeah, so I you got to carry yourself a certain way, you know, and the only way to carry yourself is to sort of wish someone would, but also just have respect. I don't know. I don't know what their problem is, to be honest, because I've never been them. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I'm talking about white people that grew up around mostly white people. I don't know what's going on in their heads, but I do have to assume. Um, I don't know. I think they're so addicted to the comfort that they have that they just their entire personality and everything just sort of changes. And they have no reason to change it, if that makes sense. See, I had a reason to adapt because I had to, but I'm thankful for that because it changed me as a person. And I would take the strengths that I gained from that, then and still, the trauma was worth it. I don't know about these kids today because it's worse with social media, like I said, but I think the comfort zone that many white people have to battle, it'll improve them as a person. There's a comfort zone, especially out here in the West Coast, man. Some of these woke white people, they're the worst. They're actually the worst. I'm not even talking about the country bumpkins, man. I'm talking about
Yeah.
those hipsters over in Oakland sipping their coffee. They're the worst because they have a way of fronting like they're like an ally or something, but really they're in their comfort bubble. And they're looking at guys like me that know how to make fun of the line between white and black, and they want to call me like racist in order to get favor of black people without having to be near black people. That makes sense. Like
It,
I'm the scapegoat. They'll cancel me in order for them to look good, even though black people are liking my shit.
yeah,
So
yeah. Your stuff is classic, and you talk about, like, the difference between poor white people and poor black people, how they dress. You guys go check out that joke because I'm not going to do it justice or even try.
right.
But see, I am born in Oakland and then raised in Concord in a mix. Like, if my mother's not in the picture, you would think I was Webster. And so I know both sides, because back there in Concord in the Clayton days, there was no one to cut your hair, and you had to go to church 2 to 3 times a week, right?
Mm.
So I know being in West Oakland in the Acorns at its height, and then going home and be like, well, I could have stayed with my aunt, but I got my 2 toy boxes over here, right? But to be black and trying to compete with even poor black folk, that's a whole nother it's a whole nother topic. Because you're like, hey, we got the money, but now you got to make sure, because they'll be like, man, you got money, and whatever that means, because none of it was ours. But you got to see the best of both worlds in yourself, because you go from Kansas to Oakland and you see how everybody is so woke, so hip. Just means
Hmm.
everyone's sleeping together. That's all that means. That's the thing. But with the comedy, in the Bay Area, it could really cost you your life to go to certain clubs. And I'm not talking about, the Jimmy's or, some of the nicer places. I'm sure you had to start in some places. It might have been the skating rink or something, in Danville, since
Yeah.
Oakland. It'd be at the Golden Skate.
Danville.
Yeah. Like,
Oh boy.
how was it trying to get your foot in the door? What did you have to do to get, just get on stage?
Um, just to get on stage, that part I don't remember. I think it was a lot of vouching. Like I would do good at open mics, and then other comics that were more seasoned than me would vouch, and I would get into places. And then I had to still follow through. I had to still do well. And the way I approached those hostile rooms was like prison, first day, just pick a fight with somebody.
Yeah.
So I got up and I was looking to sort of like roast someone or say something crazy right out of the bat to take control, right? So that was always and looking at back at it now, I definitely overcompensated. I was like, yeah, it was a little much. I mean, it worked, but it was like, I'm glad I don't have to do that shit no more. But yeah, that was sort of the thing, is going in the hostile rooms and just sort of attacking or just saying something crazy. Um, to the point where it's like I might get jumped. You have to get like right to that right there just before getting jumped. That's the level you have to take it to in order to get the respect and the chance. And then you get the chance, you got to deliver something funny. So that was my life for years. And then doing that circuit eventually got me to showcase for Kevin Hart, Heart of the City, the Oakland episode. So then it was out of 50 comics, we all had to compete at this soul food restaurant called Lena's. I don't know if you've ever been to Lena's, but and then we taped for Comedy Central through that, through me doing like soul food restaurants and shit, you know. Um, and what's interesting is the rest of the Bay didn't really acknowledge that scene because who was in San Francisco? It was all the white hipsters. They didn't come to the East Bay to do everybody else's comedy shows. They stayed in their own little bubble. And what was funny is I wasn't really allowed on their shows because I was tainted because I do Oakland and all that shit. And that actually like ruined my career for many years because a lot of the mainstream of Hollywood was dictated by the hipster white people scene. And
So are you telling me it's kind of like porn because you were
yes.
playing, with the blacks, you were playing with the black. That's my words, not his, y'all. I don't want you guys, that's Trump. But
Yeah.
because you did something with the blacks, you weren't able to go, wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's like porn, like the white lady gets tainted by the yeah, that's exactly it. But those same hipsters were the ones that would like try to call me racist or some shit, just so that way they could, so it really fucked up my career forever. Like it still does actually. And if it wasn't for the black comedy community, I wouldn't have a career. Like no doors were opening. It was only that door that kept staying open. And I think it's because I was lucky enough from my childhood to develop my sense of humor in a way where that's my market. Because if I didn't have that market, I'd have nothing. So that's what I mean by like the bullying. It became a positive later in life. It gave me a career. Kids today, I don't know, like they might not get a career out of their bullying. They might just get their ass whooped and then, then they become an incel and that's it. So I don't know if I want to be pro bullying, but
Well,
I don't
Well,
know.
the internet also, think about this. If you are, getting bullied, let's say for whatever the reason is, usually the bully's going through his own trauma at home. And
Yeah.
kids, Cody's not telling you to do this, but Kellen surely is. Follow your bully home or, dox him or something and say, look how he's living. Look at, there's roaches here. Look at the county with the reports. And he might have beat me up, but life is really whooping him. I mean, you can really go online and maybe the doxing part you leave out because that might be illegal in your state. But there's ways that the person who is getting bullied can go back and get some retaliation because I think it builds character. It builds character. You wouldn't be who you are without it. Without it, I wouldn't be such a great fighter as well. Without it, and I'm a good fighter, and I haven't had to fight in decades. But I
Yeah.
still train,
Yeah.
and I'm sometimes funny because I want to laugh more than I want to fight. Fighting is the last resort. But
Right.
and you guys know, don't play with me.
Right. Well, see, that's another thing. There has to be that element of physical confrontation, even in verbal confrontation. I think that even carries over in the corporate world. If you have that, like someone can smell like this guy might fuck me up. Like it does something, even in the whole other realm, like maybe in business or talking. Like I did have that, like in comedy, I was willing to fight after the show, and that happened a few times, right? And that's just because the environment I grew up in. And I bring this up because I got a message on Instagram from a kid seeing my heckler videos. He's like, hey man, can you teach me how to like roast someone the way you do? Because I'm getting made fun of by this kid, all these people. And then I said, all right, so what's their gender? I'm trying to figure out like what type of bullying it is. And I basically told him, I was like, all right, you need to go take jujitsu and Muay Thai straight up. You need to go do that because the level you need to go to, you might need to fight after you say this shit. And also you'll be able to think on your feet quicker if you can beat someone's ass because you'll be comfortable. You'll be comfortable confronting someone if you're willing to go to the ultimate level. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm pro kids doing like martial arts, but real martial arts. Mar- Basically just Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. That's it. None of that other
Yeah.
bullshit. Because I took Taekwondo as a kid and I had to fight this like 250 pound man. He's like maybe like 210. He's 6'4". And I was 13 years old. I was probably about 95 pounds, maybe 100 pounds, 5'4", right? But I had to fight because I had to show the rest of school that I wasn't afraid to fight him. But this
Mhm.
dude, I remember his name was Akhenaten. He sounds as big as he is. And he just picked a fight with me. He said I hit him in the head when I didn't. And then I had to fight him after after they dropped us off, the school bus, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's watching. I tried doing some Taekwondo shit. Man, he knocked me out so clean. Like I was out. He drilled me hard. And to the point where he was trying to help me up because then he's like, oh shit, I might go to jail. Because this dude got held back at least 7 times. This guy's like 34 years old. And, and so he's trying to wake me up. Like, hey, sorry, man. I didn't mean. But, that helped that I showed that I wasn't scared, but I still had some bullshit ass martial arts that didn't work. And
Yeah.
it got me fucked up.
Well, everybody, my girls even do jujitsu because it's the only martial arts that you can be on your back, somebody bigger, and you can get them off, and
Yeah.
it works. But the thing about when you talk about fighting in business, when you can go in confidently into the boardroom, negotiate your contract, because you can say I can have it or I don't have to have it, but
Yeah.
I know that these people can't whoop me in any way or form. They're not going to beat me because we can take it to any level and I'm at least going to compete. And that's, you have to have that. If not, you're going to get paid $50 a gig for whatever you do. Be a plumber, you're going to get paid $50. Be a comedian, $50. And, it makes you fearless. Not that you want to hurt anybody. We're not Trump where we want to go in the middle of the street and shoot someone and have the crowd follow us like, yeah, he did it. No. And that's my
Yeah.
Irish twin. You guys know that's my Irish twin. But I don't, it's not necessito. But tell people, like a lot of people say, hey, Killen, I want to be in entertainment, but I don't want to go through like the decade that it's going to take that I hear everybody like, what's the shortcut? And I only have one thing, become infamous. But tell the people like the journey of you didn't just get paid. You first have to earn your way on stage. When did the payment come? And when did the payment come where you could actually say, hey, this is full time for me?
All right. So, yeah. Okay. So when did I finally just kind of get over that hump?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's crazy about this business. You might get over the hump, and then just over that hump, you see a downhill, and you have to go downhill again. And then there might be another hump. I've went full time as a comedian 3 times in my life. So what that really means, I had to get a job many times, even when I was like extremely seasoned. There was times where I was working comedy clubs, opening for very big names all across the nation. But then I would come back to LA and I would walk by a homeless guy. That homeless guy is later sitting next to me in this telemarketing boiler room that I gotta like call and do scams on people just to pay my fucking rent. And he's
Yeah.
next to me. That same homeless guy I walked by, he's calling people too. Like that was after opening for someone extremely huge, and the next day I'm doing that shit. We like to romanticize that like there's this finish line. It's not like that. Life is more like a fight. You might be whooping someone's ass, but then they take a single leg and then they're on top of you. You're gonna have to figure out a way to get back on top again, but then they might reverse that and get top of you. It's more like that. We like to think of it like this finish line. There is no finish line. You can get your ass whipped tomorrow by this business. Just when you're winning yesterday. Um, I was on TV with Kevin Hart, like with Kevin Hart, dude. Like looking at him. Went full-time comedy for a year after that, selling out places. Then after that, I had to go work a sales job because everything dried up. Like it's so brutal. Like I suggest learning like a masochistic mindset if you're really going to be about this entertainment. Because if you don't pop in the first 5 years, you might be like me, and where you just got to like grind your way into position constantly, forever, maybe forever. Um, that's really what it is. Because the people that make it, like they like really blow up. I've noticed it's within the first 5 years. It's always, or maybe six.
Hmm.
If they don't, then they might blow up way later. Patrice O'Neill, best comedian ever. He said, "You either blow up way too late or way too soon." So
Hmm.
it's never on time. So for me, it's going to be like way too fucking late to the point where I get it. I don't even care. Matter of fact, I can get it right now. I don't care because I put too much in. I'm like, yeah, cool, great. Where were you 10 years ago? Like I'm kind of dead inside. I can't even enjoy this. So, um, so if they do pop, they're going to be like 5 or 6 years in. Maybe they'll get like a big TikTok following or big social media, whatever. But now they're going to have to grow as an artist in the public eye, as opposed to the privilege I had, which was growing not in the public eye. I could actually get better and fail. They're going to have to fail while famous. So sure, they're going to get more money, but they're going to embarrass themselves more. Both paths suck. Neither of them are wrong, but either you make it 5 or 6 years in and you got to grow. You'll get a Netflix special that you're not ready for. A lot of my friends, I saw their Netflix special. I was like, man, thank God I'm not that guy. But then I see the money he's making. I'm like, I'd rather be that guy. Or you have to grind your way out. And if you're grinding your way out, there's no finish line. We like to romanticize that it's all gonna it doesn't end. You gotta fight every day. You gotta see how much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's with anything though. If you think about even like medical doctors, 14 years of extra school. So by the time you make your 300,000, your 500,000, some of you are making 1 million. You surgeons out there, especially neurosurgeons. And it's like, but I'm old. But if they would have gave it to you, if you could have did that at 23, and if you would have got a Netflix special or whatever Netflix was, the hot ticket, you don't know if you'd be alive because the money and the maturity, when they don't like, I pray to God, I say, thank God for what I don't have, because I know me and I know my ways. And
Yeah.
I know that there's some things, I mean, you guys ain't seen wildness until you give me money that I don't know how to handle too soon, too early. I'm talking about naked midgets, adult midgets. I'm talking about clown midgets. I'm talking about on the airplane. I'm talking about crazy stuff that you haven't even seen and say, why? Yeah, why did we invite Bruce Jenner? He'll fit in right here, right? Like just Dorian Gray, crazy stuff because you got it too soon. All straight stuff too, because I heard somebody say, "Hey, did you say Dorian?" No, Dorian Gray. It's a book and a movie. I'll check it out. but and he goes a little maybe too wild for me, but because you are now seasoned with it, like, and your YouTube is growing, and TikTok and all these other outlets are here to help folks. If you don't have a special, if you don't have a gig, have you looked at, or do you get excited at all by being able to do some of it online and getting a check?
Yeah, that is because then I have control of the content, but then I learned what people's tastes actually are, and then I'm like, shit, this is where it really it messed me up. Because once YouTube really started popping, and I was like uploading a lot of videos that were getting like millions of hits, and the money's good, by the way, better than Comedy Central, way better. Uh, Comedy Central, it's a little sad what they pay, but um, once I realized what people were into, um, I stopped respecting people's taste as much. So this is where it gets weird. I'm trying to figure out why I'm still doing this, because it was to please people. I did like making people happy by trying to give them the best product I could. Then I realized they don't like the best product I can give them. They like what they like. And that's when I'm like, shit. Even what I really truly love about this, which is making a product, getting best at what I can do, or getting as good as I can get at what I do, it doesn't matter to them because they're gonna buy what they buy. I think Jay-Z said some shit like that where he was like, I'm just trying to sell you what you want. Because we all
Yeah.
know Jay-Z's super talented. He could do whatever he wanted. But he's like, I'm just trying to sell you what you buy. So they're calling him like this sellout, but he's like, I'm selling it to you. You're the one that wants cheap shit. There you go. So the thing is, I don't know if I can keep doing cheap shit because I know that's what is actually selling. That's what kind of like the heckler videos and stuff like that. It's cool, but to me, that's the cheap shit. I mean, a seasoned comic, if we're all sitting in the back, we make fun of crowd work. We make fun of all that because it's easy. And to the public, they think that's the hard part. That's the easy part. You know, crowd work is like the Hail Mary pass because you're like, shit, my material's not working. All right, I'm just start riffing. And it's an easy, cheap drug to get the audience going. So now we got a bunch of 5-year, 6-year comedians that are learning how to do crowd work first before doing material, and they're going viral because their crowd work's going so well. But that's because crowd work is extremely easy once you learn it. It's, because you're in control. Like I said, you probably had like 13 thoughts in the past 5 seconds because you're a smart guy, your brain works fast. Well, so does a comic. And once they get comfortable, they're going to think really fast on stage too. But they didn't put any time in creating their material. And now these fuckers are headlining clubs when they shouldn't be because they don't have the material. So, and in order for me to get views, I got to do what these damn 5-year, 6-year comedians are doing, which is heckler this, crowd work that. But I give them like a piece of art. People don't know what good shit is unless it's forced down their throat, So that's what's kind of messed up is that we're in this world where now we can go straight to the audience. There's no gatekeepers, there's no nothing. You can go straight to the audience. But now I know what audiences actually like. And it's hard for me to respect their taste now. So now I'm just like, what do I do this for? I don't know. So I'm going crazy. But now what's fun is since I'm going crazy, I want to see what it does to my act. It might get even crazy. Like that's what I'm more interested in because I'm like, I'm definitely losing my mind, but this might be good. It might be a new page, you know. If I
Yeah.
the
Don't
best
well don't lose your mind. Do what you want to do because again, the people I'm saying this not Cody. The people for the most part are morons. They don't know, they don't have taste, they don't know art. They, I mean, you look at talking about Jay-Z, he's took Basquiat's look, but when I look at a Basquiat, then I look at this painting behind me, I say, I know which one I like more.
Yeah.
Basquiat was going through his own issues, and he was great in his own way. But your lane is your lane, and the greats, George Carlin, they're going to give you what they're going to give you. You love it or hate it, but it's classic. Same thing with Patrice, same thing
Yeah.
with anything by Paul Mooney. I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to say, and this person wasn't really all that, because people were like, that's my favorite comedian ever.
Yeah.
Because some people are great storytellers, but they're, comedy should almost damn near make you cry too. That's why you're laughing. Like
Yeah.
you're laughing, but I mean cry like that's my life. Like when Bill Burr had to go to London to tell some of those jokes. There are some things that weren't going to fly in America the same way they were going to fly in the UK. And so do you, because I mean, hey, if you've been broke before, what's the worst that can happen? And who knows, that stuff you doing you might be something we've never seen before, which would always be exciting.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm kind of happy that I'm trapped doing what I can do. Because if I did have the ability to sell out, I know in my spirit I would. I'm just not very good at doing the cheap shit. Because I've tried doing the cheap shit where I was like, man, I just want to alleviate this pain. I just want some money. I'm tired of this fucking up and down shit. But I I can't do it. I'm not very good at the cheap stuff. I'm really bad at selling a lie. Um, some of the comics I know that are really good at selling lies, they even do that off stage really well. They're just sociopaths, and I'm like, well, that's why they're famous, because they're able to sell a lie so well. People can smell when I'm lying. I don't. So it's like I got to be real. I got to do what interests me. But if it leads me to failure, I got to be cool with that. I got to be cool
Yeah.
with it. Sometimes though, it'll mess with you. Sometimes, some days I'm like, cool. I'll be like this kamikaze pilot. I'll go. I don't care. Then other days, you see what other people get in this business. You're like, how the fuck did they get a special? How the fuck? And then um, you start spiraling. And they say, oh, don't compare yourself. Well, in comedy, you have to compare yourself. You have to see even just the laughs every night. Even if you're doing a show and you're not listening to what the dude is saying, you got to be listening to his laughs. I'm like, all right, I need to match that because he's going probably about he's hitting something every like 10 seconds. I need to match that. I need to go bang, bang, bang. So the art requires comparison. You're not going to get away from that. There's other lanes in life where you don't have to compare yourself, and boy, do I envy those. But comedy it's designed to drive you mad if you're doing it. So, that's just what it is. I'm not trying to present a problem without a solution just to be dark. I'm just saying sometimes there's just problems and no solutions, and that's for anyone who might be interested in going down this path. This is what you will deal with, and you're going to want a solution. Sometimes life isn't like that. It's just going to be a problem forever.
And again, it's lifing, it's adulting. There was a Twilight Zone episode back in the day, and the comedian was so funny on stage, and then off he would be in his little bubble, and he was just depressed. And so many comedians deal with that, but so many entertainers, period, deal with that, because when you're on your stage, you're going for the laughs. You got it. You want to make people happy, and when it's time to say cut, now I got to go back into whatever real life was. How do you control that for you? Is it therapy? Is it pills? Is it helping, and it goes into my other question of, and you can answer that secondly, like, what is your community give back? Because sometimes that helps people, including myself. Like, the more I give, the more I live, the more I can see happiness in others. So whatever I'm going through, it's all right. I'm helping somebody. I'll work through it. So give us the game on how you deal with that comedic depression and your community give back that you're doing now or would like to do in the future.
Yeah, for community give back, I had to get outside of comedy to find that. I really did. And I do recommend that, especially if you're in Los Angeles pursuing comedy, particularly because the interactions in LA, they're not very fulfilling. Everything feels like a job interview because it is. So your sense of community will go away in the business. So you got to find it elsewhere. I love jujitsu. You're going to meet some really good people in jujitsu, right? Because they're being humbled by people. Like, man, I got choked out by this 19-year-old girl who looks 14. She's this beast purple belt from Brazil. There's nothing I could do, and I'm a grown ass man, and she was choking me. I was like, nothing I can do. Fuck. That does something to you. It makes you humble, and it just, I don't know, like, it shatters your ego, because your ego is probably the main perpetrator of your depression, right? So when you shatter it, it does help. And then I met a lot of people through jiu-jitsu that they're just cool. There's not a lot of ego. And in comedy, there's tons of ego. So I would say if you're looking for community, don't be afraid to look outside of what you do. Take pottery or some shit. Take something, join a running club. I think jujitsu is number one. Like, and I'm not trying to be Mr. Joe Rogan. That dude annoys me, but that you're going to meet like very humbled people because it's such a brutal thing. And you just end up meeting some really awesome people. So that's how I got the community back. But now I'm starting to go really headfirst into comedy again. My community's starting to go away. The comedic depression's coming back. But I know it's a gift because I write better when I'm depressed. That's where, so, I had like a good, especially the pandemic, I had a nice 2 years of normal life that I never got to have. Had some community, didn't have to go out for shows, got some government money because I luckily had a good 2019 that, they're like, oh, this guy makes this much. Yeah, totally. And they started paying me like I did in 2019. And I got to enjoy like a normal life with my wife, and it was great. But artistically, I was starved. I couldn't write, man. I was running out of stuff because I was happy. So that's that's the cost. Some comics, man, they could be funny while happy. I know a few happy guys that are funny, like this guy named Jeff Dye. I'm like, man, this dude's like, his whole life is all green lights, and you can tell he's just a happy guy, and he's funny being happy. I'm not like that. I'm happy when I'm silly, but I'm always working with some sort of like pain always. So now I got the paint back, and I'm writing some good stuff, man. I got the
Yeah.
paint back, you
No,
know.
I totally get that. I get that. I think a lot of creatives get that because you see so many, even musicians, that pen can dry up, and you know, somebody giving you lines, fine. We all love to write. You've probably written for, you know, many of people as well. It's not the same. It's not the same thing.
Involuntarily.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, well, hey, you know, I mean, if Carlos Mencia sees your show, it is what it is. But you know,
Yeah.
I enjoy Carlos Mencia, but it is what it is. Or whomever has been accused of, you know,
Yeah.
it's like when you said the thing about Joe Rogan. The thing about you and Joe is when people know that you know how to train yourself, I bet you they don't want to try you too much because it's different than someone trying a Chris Rock or someone who they don't
Yeah.
know. But you know, there's going to be a time, and I don't wish for it. You're gonna run up on the wrong comedian, and he's gonna show his, you know, all his rights that he gets to carry. It might be in Texas, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's gonna show you why you should never run up on anyone, whether it's a Dillinger or whatever he has on you. Don't come on that stage unless you want to be carried off. That's the rule.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, people feel very confident against comedians to the point where now it's just getting physical, thanks to Will Smith. And then, but it's happened a few times before that, just with like non-famous comedians and drunk people,
Mm.
because I want to make you laugh. I look weak and desperate because I need your approval. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going on in the comedian's head. They might be, you know, totally different from that, and then someone tries them and then they snap. But society does that. Society likes to pick on the clowns because the clowns are presenting problems, but nobody wants to attack the problems that the clowns are presenting. Nobody wants to actually talk about that, like especially with cancel culture, which that does exist. I'm so sick of people saying it doesn't exist just because culture doesn't work. You can't cancel someone, but it doesn't mean the culture's not there. So
Mm.
that's my stance on that. A lot of woke people are like, oh, well, how come so and so is still working if cancel culture is real? That's because they survived. Doesn't mean that you didn't want to end them. The culture's there. So a lot of cancel culture is aimed at comedians because they're presenting problems, very, very tense, emotional, whatever, political, all these problems, but they want to attack the comedian instead of what they're presenting. And it's always been that way. But now it's getting to the point where they got to fight after
They
shows.
gotta, but they're opening up opportunities. I don't know if you've heard about this, but you know, we know Cosby's going to get on the road, but this is breaking news from Kellen Express News.
Mm.
You know, Andrew Tate's going to join him on that comedy thing. He's going to back as security. I'm making all this up, but you know,
Well,
Cosby and Andrew Tate. If you want to get on this ticket, Cody, let me know. But yeah,
I'll,
you know,
I'll
because
take
there's
it.
no.
I need it.
Yeah. Tell people, you know, while we round up, because I want them to go to your channel and just kind of binge watch and subscribe and just zone out. But tell the folks, you know, especially the people who think they want to get in this, the amount in comedy, you know, when you're doing shows, people say, oh man, I heard so and so got 15 grand. And I tell people, I've known clubs to book two comedians that you know for, you know, and they brought somebody with them for less than 5,000.
Yeah.
You know, how can a new comedian look at the money, as well as how do you get yourself booked outside of the Californias, the Vegas, you know, the El Pasos, and up to New York? Like, you guys just all, you know, are you on a circuit? You know, give them all the game, because they can go to your website and see where you are in, you know, Vegas and Cali. But I just
Yeah.
want them to get a teachable moment.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to produce your own shows in areas that you think are desolate, because those are actually your best areas because you have less competition of things going on that night. Like, I almost always avoided the big cities when I was producing my own shows, because I got to compete with like karaoke night over here, maybe even a comedy club over here. Like, uh, New Orleans was probably the only good big city where we sold out. Other than that, we kind of stuck to the suburbs or the sticks or whatever, just outside. Instead of Indianapolis, I went to like Gary, Indiana. You know, areas like that. Go to the places where they really need comedy because you're gonna sell more tickets, and those people need it more, and they're gonna love you more. Just go there. If you're not big enough to sell out in like a Chicago or a Portland, doesn't matter. Take away the pride and go to somewhere you've never even heard of and just do a show. Plus, you'll get to know America because a lot of perceptions about America are sort of exaggerated by the media. You'll be shocked at what's really out there and how people really think. And you'll also be shocked at some of the stuff that you expected to be true to fucking be true. but but you'll at least know for real what America is. So go out, pick the markets that are not so overly saturated, and you'll make some money, man. You will, and have an hour of material. Don't go touring if you don't have an hour. And by an hour, I mean 3 hours. Because what are you gonna do when the first hour ain't working? You gotta have another hour. Well, if that's not working, have another hour. Some of these fuckers get like 45 minutes. Like, I'm a headliner. It's like, yeah, what if that 45 wasn't working? And you have to fill in that other 15. Because you're what are you gonna do? Just be real about when you're a headliner. Uh there's nothing wrong with not having an hour. I would rather be a comic with a killer 20 minutes than an all right hour. That killer 20 minutes will open doors for you. And by killer, I mean laughs every 10 to 13 seconds. The Richard Pryor standard of killing an audience, 13 seconds. Fuck all this long setup bullshit that's on YouTube. It's bang, 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 bang. Because these rough audiences, that's what they want. They're like, ha next, ha next. I paid you. Keep going. Because you're gonna have to learn to fucking work that speed bag. And when you got 45 minutes of material, cut it down to 30. Keep the jokes. Cut all those setups. Trim it to 30. Now you're tight. And then write another 30 as tight as that. Now you got an hour. That's a bang, bang, bang hour. That's an hour. So that's my advice. You know, don't force this shit and go to the sticks. Go to the forgotten lands. You'll make your money and you'll have the best fans you'll ever meet.
So booking your own shows, you can create your own bag, and now you're not just a comedian, you're a business person. But if they do book with someone else, what are the ranges, especially for new comedians or maybe seasoned? Because people think, oh, I get that one thing and I'm to the moon. But like, is it $50 still, or is it, you should be looking at 500 in some markets?
Okay. Yeah. It's all of it. If you're in town passing through and it's only a $50 gig available, go over there, do the $50, do it. It'll be good for you. Even though, let's say you're getting 500 in the other town. Let's say you got 1500 in the other town, but you got that night off. Stage time is still worth it. $50. Prove to yourself that you're willing to eat shit. You're willing to still do that. It doesn't mean your price is $50 just because you took $50. That doesn't mean that. It means that you're still tough enough to do what you did your first few years, which is taking $50 gigs every now and then, sometimes for free. Do it just to stay tough. Doesn't mean your price is $50 just because you did it for $50. I do little bullshit ass gigs sometimes, for cheap, just because I'm like, I need to do that. Plus, I know if they're only paying $50, probably nobody paid for a ticket, which means it's probably an audience that got in for free, which means they're not going to respect the show, which means this is going to be a rough, shitty ass show. I need to go do that real quick just to see if I can still control people like that. Paying audience, they're a little easy to control because they've invested. They're actually a little bit, they're more demanding, but they're more respectful. A free audience, they don't demand. They're just like, whatever, we're here. That's a whole other energy. And if you make those people laugh, you're going to destroy the paying audience. You're going to do amazing. So just because you take something that you think is less of your price doesn't mean it really is your price. Just take it, especially if you got nothing going on that day. Don't let your pride get in the way of, some grocery money and, a chance to maybe work out some new jokes. But the pay scale, I wish I could be specific, man. but it's insane. It's the variation is ridiculous. It's absurd. It makes no sense. The club pay has gone up. I can at least be specific on that. You'll probably get maybe 25 to 50 bucks more than what they used to pay before the pandemic because they finally adjusted to inflation. They should have did that since the 80s. Let's just say that's how low this shit was. Because before it was like 50 bucks to host, 100 bucks to feature, and then anywhere between 200 to 15,000 to headline. Depends on who you are and what you worked out. Everything's kind of gone up. I think I opened for somebody recently and I looked at the check expecting like 2015 payout, but no, they paid probably about double what they, but it still wasn't shit because they're starting at not shit. So you double not shit. It's still, but the pay's gone up. I definitely wouldn't do this for money. I would try to do this lane comedy for spiritual reasons and fame. Go after fame. People that are hungry to be famous in this business, they do really well. That's why I don't really do so well. I don't know if I'm not a narcissist, so I have like a harder time pursuing fame the way some of the other people do. And I'm not shitting on narcissists. I'm just saying I don't crave attention to the level that I need to in order to grow in this business. You should crave attention, not money. Try to get as much attention as possible on social media, through the industry, audiences. Try to make your name huge. Don't worry about the money. So for the people that are success driven, focus on fame, not money. The money will come after.
The money will come. And I like what you said about different areas and even outside of America. I mean, there's like a community I was told about recently, Guanajuato in Mexico. And in the middle of all this, chaos, there's this like HOA home, maybe an hour away, HOA complex that they say the Americans or who's ever there don't even leave, nor do they speak English or speak Spanish at all, because they're like in this big luxurious bubble in the middle of chaos. But
wow,
I've seen, I'm going to talk to you about this off air. We're going to talk about Africa off air, you guys. Would you guys like trip if you saw Cody in Africa and like, hold on, he's in Africa doing comedy, but there's people who have done it. So we're going to talk about that off air. I know you did want to mention you had a childhood friend like your brother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you wanted to mention. Hey, I'm going to let you tell that story however you want to tell it and how he plays into your story before we wrap.
Yeah, so his name's Kyle Wilson. I just saw him like a couple of weeks ago. I was in Wichita doing shows, and he's training kids out there because he was an NFL athlete, and he's going to go back into the CFL, I think. But as a kid, he always wanted to be a football player. I remember when he was like 5, I was probably about like 10, and he said, "I'm going to be in the NFL." I was like, "Well, I'm going to be a comedian," right? And we both did what we wanted to do. We put it all in and we just did it. And there's not a lot of people I can relate to because a lot of people just give up on their dreams, and there's nothing wrong with that. This shit's painful. But yeah, so all right. Kyle is a black kid. I'm a white kid. I was raised by his family because my mom used to work so much. And then I had to switch schools because some jurisdiction, whatever thing. And then I went to, the school that the Wilson family was going to. I'm Woods, they're Wilson. And then that's when I just sort of got baptized by culture, and it was good. It was good being the odd man out. It was so good. And it was funny as Kyle was always the little kid when we played football. He was always like a little small. And I mean, he got tore up, man. He got destroyed. But then he got so good that he eventually went to, I think, Arkansas State. I think he was the best defensive player on that team. Really smart at reading plays. Like he sees them before they happen. So he can get, it's all about position with him. He's not like crazy athletic, but he can just see stuff happen before it happens, and he'd just be there for the hit. And then he gets drafted to the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles, the year after they won the Super Bowl, right? We'll see if they win again, but the year after. And that's the same year that I shot Heart of the City in Oakland with Kevin Hart. And he's a Philly fan. So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna motivate Kyle. I bought Kyle's jersey, and then I filmed Kevin Hart. I was like, hey man, I got a gift for you. I know you're a Philly fan, but I'm a fan of this guy. This is basically my brother who I grew up with. I need you to put this on, and I'm gonna send a video to Kyle. And then I did, like, he recorded it, and he's like, Kyle, get some fucking hits, man. And he's got his jersey on, and then and it I gave Kyle like at least a peek, like just a little moment of peek, because it's the same as comedy. He got that little peek. And then after that, Philly dropped him, and then he went over to the Chargers. He was with them for a bit. And then now I think he's in the CFL. So he's got this same up and down road. Just because it's your dream doesn't mean it's gonna love you. Just because you love your dream doesn't mean it's gonna love you back. So he's in the same up and down road. He's trying to get back to the league.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, these dreams, this is what we have. But think about this. No matter what you do in life, you went for it. You are doing it, professionally. And there's some people, whether you're Kyle, whether you're a comedian and you're Cody, there's some people sitting right now checking a Walmart receipt because they didn't try. And they didn't try, or they're in a cubicle, and they might be making a ton of money, because you guys thought I was going to pick on the poor workers only. No, they might make a ton of money, Wall Street, but they're ready to jump out that window. And they may just do that because they didn't follow their dream. Like, following that dream, it's orgasmic. It's like, yes, I tried. And most people in life will not try. That's why we don't have all the stars in the world. People think they're stars on Instagram, but I know what you're really getting paid. You're not. You're not. But go for that dream, and that's why I do what I do. Where people say, "Kellen, but you could say that speech better than me that you wrote." I know, but that wasn't my dream. It was my dream to write the speech. You say it. You live your life. I have my time. Don't worry. Kellen has his time. But I appreciate you coming on, and I want people to go follow you. Great storytellers always have them wanting something more. Tell them where the best way to follow you at, where they can, follow you. Maybe you even respond and connect here and there.
Yeah. For my content is YouTube. It's definitely just Cody Woods. To type it in, CODYWOODS. If you want to connect with me, luckily my Instagram is not popping, so I see messages. YouTube, it's hard for me to see stuff because it's it's kind of buried. But at Cody J Woods is my Instagram. So I only got about 8,000 followers on there. So I see what people type, So reach out to me. Check out my YouTube stuff though. That's where my vision is. I think comedians could be like the best travel storytellers if they incorporated their road life with the stand-up footage. It would be the best travel show on the planet, I think. So that's what I try to do. I'm trying to merge travel film with stand-up as both, sort of like Anthony Bourdain meets Dave Attell's Insomniac, meets some Key and Peele a little bit, just some sketch and stand-up vloggy travel stuff. A new brand. That's people don't know to look for it. That's the problem. But I'm trying to give them something new, So.
Yeah, it's popping up. I'm glad that I saw it because it gives me, I'm the one who I get sad when I don't hear other good stuff, and I see people laughing at, like, why are you laughing at that? I don't care who it is. I don't care how big they are, but why? That's not funny. But you guys, we'll talk about that offline. You guys have done your job by making it to the end, and I thank you. Most of you are listeners, but do not feel scared to go over to the YouTube or wherever you see this on video. Share it with someone, put up those numbers, share it with someone, because it will change their life. You guys, be blessed.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stress the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.